So far in regulation set F, with the Fluttermane staring down its nemesis. The Regidrago there as well. Let's get into it, trainers. It's Ndidi and the Urshifu coming out over on Roberto's side of the field. Rapid Strike style and Fluttermane and Raging Bolt here for Guillermo.
Yeah, the leads here, instantly the Ndidi coming out into the field, getting that Psychic terrain out, meaning that the Thunderclap is not going to be an option on that Raging Bolt. And the Fluttermane, quite nicely positioned here, has to be careful around the Urshifu, of course, because the Wicked Blow will do some considerable damage to it. But at the same time, you can go for some of those big fairy type attacks into that Pokemon and do some good damage. I should reiterate that Roberto is running the Rapid Strike Urshifu, and it is Choice Scarf, so it is going to be in a position here to go for that Surging Strike into one of these Pokemon. And we are seeing Roberto commit to that Terastallization, the Water Terra type coming out.
Urshifu riding the wave, riding that swell, going for that Water Terastallization type. Ndidi will be keeping it somewhat safe with a Follow Me becoming the center of attention. Moonblast redirected into the Ndidi, trying to get rid of that as quickly as possible, but not before a Surging Strike is going to be blasting its way right into that Fluttermane. This is going to be easily enough for a knockout. Fluttermane not so known for its physical defense.
No, great turn here from Roberto. Big loss here for Guillermo, losing the Fluttermane early on. Some nice damage into the Ndidi, but it isn't going to be enough damage for the double up from this Raging Bolt to pick up the Ndidi, because you've got to get rid of that Follow Me if possible, but not needing it with the double target attack with that Electro Web.
Electro Web coming out and reducing the speed of both of the Pokemon on Roberto's side of the field. Urshifu taking super effective damage from that. Electro Web, not a move that we see so commonly on Raging Bolt. Just another lesson in how flexible this Pokemon can be. That's Ogerpon Wellspring joining the field, and it will be absorbing up any Water-type moves that Urshifu can go for, especially with a Follow Me.
Yeah, it does make it difficult to utilize that Surging Strike now. Not really effective on either Pokemon on Guillermo's side of the field, so setting himself up really nicely here. The Ndidi retreating for later, because wanting to maybe keep that Psychic terrain later on in this battle. We are going to see an Ivy Cudgel into that slot.
Catching the switch into that Regidrago. Its Dragon Energies no longer as powerful as they once were. Here comes another Surging Strike. Just going for it despite the threat of Follow Me coming into the Raging Bolt. Not very effective hit, but they are chipping away.
Yeah, they are chipping away, and you can see how useful that Electro Web was the previous turn, just lowering the speed stat, essentially taking away the Choice Scarf item on the Urshifu, because now it is able to pick up another knockout with that Electro Web, further reduce the speed on the Regidrago, take it down to -1, put that Ogerpon in a really nice position where it is going to be able to get an attack off first this next turn, depending what comes in.
Right, absolutely, and the Ogerpon can fire off a big Ivy Cudgel perhaps into the Iron Crown. The Iron Crown over on Roberto's side of the field does have the Water Terra type though, so it can Terastallize away from that neutral damage.
Yes, but unfortunately the Urshifu has already eaten up the Terastallization for Roberto, so not an option here, but it does have access to that Expanding Force, and neither the Ogerpon or the Raging Bolt are going to appreciate an Expanding Force under this Psychic terrain, and they take big damage from it, especially after that Booster Energy has been activated, bolstering that special attack, meaning that is going to hit a lot harder than it did previously.
It absolutely will. It's going to be Regidrago going to the back, and Ndidi rejoining the fray here. Psychic terrain already set up, so that's not going to reactivate. It's time for the Terra to come out on Guillermo's side of the field. It's going to be the Ogerpon going for that Water Terastallization. It's going big. Let's hope it's not going home as well. A victory cry on the field, as Embody Aspect will be bolstering its special defense. Exactly what you want in the face of Ndidi and Iron Crown. Alongside that Assault Vest on the Raging Bolt. Going to be dividends here for these Pokemon. Ivy Cudgel connecting down into the Iron Crown, already bringing it down to 1/4 of its health. Expanding Force, though, in retaliation. Both those Pokemon going to take it rather well as a Snarl comes out. Doubly super effective. Both of those Pokemon hang on.
Yeah, the sheer defensive capabilities of everything on Guillermo's side, easily able to take that. You really needed to have a helping hand boost on top of that Expanding Force to be able to remove both these targets. You can see the Embody Aspect ability on that Ogerpon really paying dividends there, where it is giving it a boost to those defenses, allowing it to take less damage from the Expanding Force, and now in a position, because we know the speed tiers here, it is going to outspeed the Iron Crown, going to be able to get an Ivy Cudgel into that slot and pick up a knockout. And even if we do see a Follow Me here, there potentially is going to be just one more turn of the Psychic Terrain left. So do you stall it out so you've got that access to the Thunderclap the next turn?
Ogerpon is going to go for a passively offensive role, going for the Spiky Shield. Indeed, going to be redirecting once again. Here's another Expanding Force connecting down into just the Raging Bolt this time. How much damage is it going to do? It's going to be enough to take the knockout onto the Raging Bolt. Guillermo down to the final two Pokemon in his arsenal. Indeed, and Iron Crown just about hanging on the field. But here comes the Single Strike Urshifu.
Yeah, really great Pokemon to have at the end of the game in front of these two Psychic Pokemon. And really, like we said, the Psychic Terrain will be ending after this turn, so it frees up the opportunity to go for those Sucker Punches from the Urshifu, but it does have the Focus Sash attached to it, so it still has that kind of security blanket. But we know the Ogerpon is going to be faster than the Iron Crown. Follow Me is still active, so there's still a little bit of work here to do, but Guillermo's setting himself up perfectly to close this game out, make it very difficult for Roberto to get a foothold in this game.
Well, it's going to be coming down to the wire here. Roberto still has those three Pokemon remaining, but Guillermo seems to be in such a commanding position, and of course these two Pokemon, Iron Crown and Indeed, on such low health. That's going to be a Follow Me. Ivy Cudgel will be redirected into that slot. That's going to be enough to pick up the knockout very, very easily, leaving this Single Strike Urshifu to do its business. See what's going to be coming out from this Pokemon. Before that, though, it's the Tachyon Cutter connecting down into the Single Strike Urshifu, bringing it nicely low and breaking that Focus Sash. But here comes the Wicked Blow. It's going to be enough for the knockout onto the Iron Crown. It's just the Regidrago in the back.
And this is testament to that Snarl that the Raging Bolt was able to drop on to the Iron Crown the previous turn, because Tachyon Cutter normally would be able to pick up the knockout onto the Urshifu, but because of the Snarl, because of that special attack drop, it is able to take it a lot more comfortably, meaning that the Psychic Terrain's gone now. You're going to be in a position where you can unlock that Sucker Punch onto the Regidrago and pick up a knockout potentially this turn. Alongside that, you have got the Ogerpon as well, which can do some decent damage, although it has to be careful because the Dragon typing on the Regidrago will resist those Water and Grass type attacks.
Regidrago's only spread damaging move is going to be the Dragon Energy, and of course the less health you have, the weaker that move becomes. So it seems like it's going to be too much of an uphill struggle. That's going to be Roberto forfeiting. That's going to be Guillermo Castilla taking game one here in our second top 8 match at the Liverpool Regional Championships.
Incredible game one from Guillermo, really identifying some holes in Roberto's side of the field and exploiting them from what he expected to see, making real good use of that Raging Bolt in particular with the Electro Web, ignoring the fact that Follow Me could be an option, saying, well, yeah, you can bring your Follow Me user, but I've got Electro Web, I'm going to slow you down, I'm going to take away any advantage that you do have with potentially that Choice Scarf item. For his troubles, he did lose the Flutter Mane, but not really minding in the end, because the end game was all he had in sight. Getting the Electro Web off then set him up to get that Snarl off later on, which then set up the Urshifu to come in, be able to take the Tachyon Cutter and close the game up perfectly alongside that Water Ogerpon.
Absolutely, and Roberto, I mean, looking at his side of the field, there is so much damage that can come out from there. It's just getting the Pokemon in a slightly better position to enable them to do that. The Single Strike style Urshifu really is the bane of Indeedee Iron Crown. Guillermo really focusing down here to work out how he can capitalize on that first game win and take himself all the way through to the semi-finals.
Yeah, I think if you are Roberto, you've got to probably look at your Tornadoes as an option here. It's not a particularly great one to bring against the Raging Bolt, but it does give you the option to set some speed control up, potentially with that Tailwind, and get something in like the Regidrago in a more preferable position where you've got the ability to then launch off that Dragon Energy. The problem is you've got to get rid of that Flutter Mane early on, because it has got the immunity to the Dragon type attacks. So utilizing that alongside maybe your Urshifu, like you did in game one, but maybe not having to commit to the Terastallization, would open the door for you to be able to do that.
Right, and I was wondering if it was going to be the Iron Crown and Indeedee lead here coming out for Roberto. That's going to be Flutter Mane and Raging Bolt once more.
Yeah, and we do see a bit of a switch up from Roberto with that Iron Crown. And Indeedee coming out here, wanting to take full advantage of the Steel typing against the Flutter Mane. It has going to be able to pressure with that Tachyon Cutter into the Flutter Mane slot, and also has access to the Expanding Force straight away. But is it going to have enough in the tank to be able to take down this Raging Bolt? Even with a helping hand, expanding force, you feel like it's a big task, especially because the Raging Bolt is holding that assault vest, is very defensively bulky, so it's going to be able to manage that and possibly get a Snarl off this turn, which would make it very difficult to get that damage kind of stacking up these next few turns.
Snarl is the perfect move to have in this position. It's going to be a speed drop coming out onto the Indeedee and Iron Crown, followed up right away by a special attack drop as well. So Guillermo really trying to get his Pokemon in the best possible position. Tachyon Cutter coming down into the Flutter Mane. It is, of course, super effective. That's a critical hit as well. Flutter Mane is down.
It is down once again, but got a very valuable turn off there with that Icy Wind, slowing everything down. Problem is the Indeedee, it could be in a position to go for a Trick Room. We don't see it this turn, but if the Trick Room does get set up here, it puts the Iron Crown and Indeedee in a much better position going forward. We are going to see the Ogerpon come onto the field. So can the Indeedee get through this next turn, survive a double up potentially into that slot, get the Trick Room set up and allow and enable this Iron Crown to start taking advantage of the Psychic terrain?
You wonder whether without that critical hit, the Flutter Mane might just have been able to hang on in that situation. It's got much better special defense. The opposing Pokemon had taken a Snarl drop to their special attack, but as it is, down and out, but not before getting that crucial Icy Wind speed drop off.
Yeah, and I think if you are Guillermo in this situation, you probably are quite comfortable here just to go for another Snarl. Even if the Trick Room gets set up, knowing that you are reducing the special attack output on those Pokemon, probably with something like the Urshifu again in the back to come in to really soak up those expanding forces with that immunity and just get as much damage on the field as you can right now.
That's going to be Indeedee surviving with the Ivy Cudgel, but a follow-up Snarl is going to be more than enough for it. Just seems like the resources are whittling away all too fast on Roberto's side. This Iron Crown now at -2 of its special attack. It's going for an expanding force. Raging Bolt holding the Assault Vest. Both of those Pokemon having still the green of their health.
Yeah, and you can see the crux in the plan here for Roberto. The Snarls are really starting to stack up and really hurt his chances being able to close this game up. Now, he does have the Regidrago he can bring in, but we know from previous game that the Ogerpon does outspeed it. The Raging Bolt is obviously going to be a bit of a threat from the Dragon Energy, but as you can see, it does have access to a Fairy Terra typing as well, taking away any potential threat from that Dragon Energy, giving it an immunity. It does get a weakness to that Tachyon Cutter, so it has to prioritize taking down that Iron Crown if you are committing to the Fairy Terra typing.
Well, decisions are plenty for Guillermo right now, as Iron Crown is going to get out of there, joining the field, and instead going to be Tornadus. So perhaps Roberto hoping to capitalize on the sheer power that the Regidrago can provide. Here comes the Terastallization, and it's heading right into that Raging Bolt over on Guillermo's side. It's got that Fairy Terra type. It's now going to be immune to any Dragon type attacks, when once it would have taken super effective damage. That is a big heart shining up there in the clouds, as Regidrago is going to keep itself safe this turn, perhaps angling for that Tornado to set up the Tailwind in the next turn. That's an Ivy Cudgel going into the Regidrago as well, so a good call there from Roberto.
Yeah, really nice play from Roberto, not only resetting those Snarl drops on the Iron Crown, taking it out to bring in later, obviously baiting in the Terastallization from the Raging Bolt, where it is Terastallized now into the Fairy type. It is going to be weak to those Tachyon Cutters when the Iron Crown comes back onto the field, presumably under a Tailwind environment. It is going to be more susceptible to that move than it was previously. Now, the Regidrago positioned well to get a Dragon Energy off. Yes, you can't hit into the Raging Bolt, unfortunately, for super effective damage with that, but you can remove the Ogerpon at this point in time and take away any need for the Follow Me from Guillermo's side of the field.
Force of Nature meets Draconic Force over on Roberto's side. A big Dragon Energy could be coming out here with a Tailwind, making sure that Roberto has the speed advantage. Ogerpon not wanting to say that one bit, keeping itself safe, going Hedgehog mode with the Spiky Shield. Earth Power, though, going to connect down into the Raging Bolt. Of course, immune now to those Dragon-type moves. A little bit of chip damage. Bleakwind Storm is going to be connecting down into that Pokemon. Got the Assault Vest, really useful in this situation, and it's not going to get a speed drop. That's a Snarl. Going to chip away at those Pokemon, but crucially reduce their special attack.
Yeah, Yeah, and again, this Raging Bolt showing how capable it is under these not great circumstances, being able to take double attack here and get another crucial snarl off into these two special attackers, meaning his Pokemon will be in a much better position this next turn. The Tornadus on Roberto's side of the field is yet to click that Tailwind button, but it has got the option here. Before it goes down, you would imagine he wants to take advantage of that Prankster ability, get the Tailwind set up, and put that Iron Crown, which is in the back, to come in once it goes down in a really good position to start taking advantage of those big, powerful attacks it has at its disposal.
Iron Crown in the back for Roberto could well prove crucial in this game, and there's one Pokemon as of yet unrevealed for Guillermo as well. This game is looking much closer than it was in Game 1. Cannot wait to see how this turn is going to unfold, so let's kick it off with a Terrestrialization. Time to Sparklyfy on Roberto's side of the field. That Regidrago is becoming the Steel Terra type. A nice little shiny axe on the side of its head, going over all metallic, ready to deal out some massive damage. Tornadus not wanting to take any from Guillermo's side, keeping itself safe with that Protect. That's an Ivy Cudgel that was going into the Protect here, so leaving the Regidrago a little bit freer than it was before. That's going to be the Draco Meteor connecting down onto the Ogerpon. That's going to pick up the knockout onto Guillermo's Pokemon. Regidrago taking the special attack double drop. It's now at -3, thanks to that Snarl that came out earlier as well. Dragon Pulse, Regidrago going to take this much better than it would have done before.
Yeah, that's a great play from Roberto. Great Protect there, not giving in to clicking that Tailwind button, but finding a way to maneuver a position where he's able to remove the Ogerpon, force that Urshifu out. Guillermo's last two Pokemon, the Raging Bolt, not that healthy, and now in a position where you can click that Tailwind button before the Tornadus goes down. You've also got the option, if you want to close this game out with the Regidrago potentially, to switch it out, but might not be the best idea. You're looking at the options. You've only got the Earth Power to be able to hit that Raging Bolt for for any damage. So your best bet is probably the Iron Crown and allow that Tornadus to go down. Can you get much use though out of this Regidrago this turn, because you need to get some good damage onto the field? You have taken that special attack drop that last turn, so not really going to be as impactful as you would preferably like it to be, and going to be weak at the same time to those close combats that are threatened from that Urshifu.
Right, the tight matchups are switched all round, with Raging Bolt no longer taking super effective from ground, and Regidrago now taking super effective from fighting. It is going to be the switch out. Could be a big call. Thunderclap going into that slot is going to fail because Iron Crown has come in. No damaging move coming out. Close combat. Super effective into the Regidrago. Regidrago is down and out. Just going to be Tornadus in the back. It can come in, set up a Tailwind. This is going to be really interesting.
This is going to be really close. Now, you have got access to the Sucker Punch on the Urshifu and that Thunderclap. So priority over on Guillermo's side of the field to kind of counteract that Tailwind that can potentially come out from the Tornadus. It does lock it out of being able to click anything other than a Tailwind here and get around those moves, because you have to pick a move that's non-damaging to avoid potential Sucker Punch, potential Thunderclap here. The same can be said for the Iron Crown. It doesn't have that protection anymore from that Psychic Train, so it leaves itself a little bit open even if a Tailwind does come out.
Well, it's going to be Tornadus protecting instead of setting up that Tailwind, not going for that move even now. And Protect coming out from Iron Crown as well, scouting out as to what Urshifu and Raging Bolt are going to be doing. Sucker Punch into presumably the Iron Crown there. Thunderclap as well, capitalizing on the priority that has been such a prominent force in Regulation Set F so far.
Yeah, it does feel like Roberto's back is against the wall. There aren't really many options what he can go for here with those priority attacks, looking down, lurking to pick up the knockouts if he makes any sort of offensive move towards Guillermo's side of the field.
Yeah, it's going to be really close for Roberto. It's going to be really difficult for him to make those calls, because fundamentally have to pick up these knockouts at some point in order to wrap up the game. Roberto is one game down here. The winner of this is going to progress through to the semi-finals here in Liverpool. Roberto taking his time to work out what the optimal play is in this less than ideal situation. And it's going to be that Tailwind coming out from the Tornadus, giving the speed advantage, so it's not going to be privy to a Thunderclap or a Sucker Punch, but of course the Sucker Punch going to be super effective into the Iron Crown. It's just this Tornadus on the field right now. It's looking like it's going to be too much of an ask.
Yeah, you can just see the power here, and then the Raging Bolt not opting for the priority. The Electro Web going to be the final blow for Roberto as Guillermo progresses into the top 4 of the regional championships here in Liverpool.